So some of you who've been following my channel for a long time will probably remember that one of the first countdowns I did was top 10 fighting game finishers. I pity every single person who witnessed that piece of trash. Since then, we've gotten quite a lot more fighting games and even more great finishers. So I decided to take a second shot at this with an Ultra Edition. There's no specific criteria for the ordering of these candidates, just the ones I think look the coolest. Also, one per franchise, they can be from games I haven't played, and to make things a little more interesting, I will not be including any of the candidates from the original list. Now that's all taken care of, let us commence! Get up to ride, get up to burn, tell me to fight on me, that ways to make her. Persona 4 Arena, a fighting game spin-off to the hit RPG series Persona, which is a spin-off to the Shin Megami Tensei series. While I've yet to play this game, or any Persona game for that matter, I can definitely say there are some fascinating elements present in this game, one of which being its instant kill attacks. As a whole, they're relatively basic, but they're still pretty great. And among them are some real gems, and the one that stood out to me since day one is none other than Kanji's instant kill, the Man Series Brofist. At the start of the attack, Kanji grabs his opponent and hits them into the air using his chair, which is followed by his persona, Takamikazuchi, say that 10 times fast, shocking them with its lightning bolt. As the helpless fighter begins to fall back to the ground, Takamikazuchi makes its way down and both it and Kanji prepare to make their final punch. And they do so. On the opponent. At the exact same time. So in other words, Kanji and his persona kill the opponent with a freaking Brofist. Guess the power of a Brofist is one that should not be underestimated. Get up to ride, get up to burn, tell me to fight on me, that ways to make her. You know, cinematic finishers in fighting games are fantastic and all, but if there's anything that King of Fighters has taught us, it's that you don't necessarily need to make your finishers cinematic if you want them to look great. And this is most apparent in King of Fighters 13. A lot of the desperation moves in this game are awesome, but it's the super desperation moves that are the real eye candy. Which brings us to my pick from this game, Kula Diamond's Neo Freeze Execution. The attack begins with Kula summoning her companions Diana and Foxy to strike the opponent a few times, and once that occurs, Kula steps in and unleashes a colorful storm of ice that covers the entire screen. Yes, I'm aware that Kula already has an Ice Storm-based desperation move in the form of her regular Freeze Execution attack, but you wanna know what's cooler than an Ice Storm? A Rainbow Ice Storm! As you can guess, what gets this finisher onto the list is the visual appeal of Kula's final attack. It truly is a sight to see, and the finisher as a whole is just really cool. I really need to fire my writer. Wait, I'm my writer. Crap. Get up to ride, get up to burn, tell me to fight on me, that ways to make her. Throughout the years of electronic interactivity, there have been many legends told, referred to as leaks. One of these legends told of warriors supposedly set to appear in the 4th annual Super Smash Bros. Competition, and one of these warriors was to be the Elysian Prince Chrom. Unfortunately, months before the start of the competition, it was unveiled that Chrom had been defeated by the Captain of Falcons, and would not be able to participate in the battles, transforming the legend into a mere myth. However, it was soon discovered that Chrom's chance would be obtained much sooner than expected, courtesy of his ally Robin. For whenever Robin obtained an orb of powerful energy during the competition, he, or she, would use this energy to summon Chrom, and together, the two comrades would take whomever they struck to the skies. While above the battlegrounds, Chrom and Robin would unleash a barrage of their strongest attacks upon their opposition, before finally striking them back to the ground. And upon the completion of the attack, Chrom would vanish, leaving Robin alone to continue fighting. Perhaps Chrom would get his chance another day, but as of now, he shall be remembered as one of the most effective final smashes brought into play in the 4th Super Smash Bros. Competition. So, long story short, Pair Up is freaking awesome! Get up to ride, get up to burn, tell me to fight on me, that ways to make her. Castlevania Judgment. A flawed fighting game spin-off of the classic Castlevania franchise, and definitely not a game that'll ever be played on competitive level. But in regards to fighting games that are played for casual fun, this would be one of my personal picks. Yeah, a lot of the classic Castlevania characters were given very anime-esque redesigns, and many of their personalities were rewritten, some for the best, but some for the worst. But the combat was still fun, the arenas were pretty great, and a majority of the hyper attacks were actually really cool. And while I would love to go with Million Edge again, it was on my original list. So instead, I'm picking Aeon's hyper attack, Requiem of the 13th Hour. Admittedly, this attack is a little tricky to pull off at first, as it requires Aeon to charge up for a short period of time without getting hit, but if you manage to fully charge without interruption, you get quite the cinematic. Aeon freezes time and approaches his opposition while talking to them briefly. Fun fact, the little blurb he says to his opponent is different for every single character in the game.
You who bear a heavy cross, What does eternity hold for you? Jealousy of the whip does not excuse your arrogance with the lance. You live for the sake of others. Your tale will be passed down for eternity.
Nice touch, Konami. After he finishes his pep talk, he summons 12 swords to circle around the character and one giant sword above them right before he restores time. And just as the giant sword falls atop his body, the icing on the cake is revealed. Aeon was timing the attack.
Right on time.
Why exactly wasn't Aeon brought back in any of the future Castlevania games? By the way, that was a rhetorical question. I know exactly why he never came back.
Get up to rock, get up to burn, tell me the fight on me, the ways to make her.
Out of all the fighting game franchises out there that I haven't played any of yet, the one I want to give the try the most right now would have to be the Guilty Gear series. Most notably the newest game in the series, Guilty Gear Xrd. Right from the very first trailer, this game had my interest, and as time has gone on, my desire to play this game has only increased. Whether it be the art style, which implements 3D models but makes them look like sprites, the fast-flowing combat, the cast of characters, or the amazing soundtrack, this game has a lot that's making me want to give it a try. However, oddly enough, the game's instant kills are, for the most part, pretty subpar. Don't get me wrong, some of them are really cool, but there's quite a few that left me desiring more. This is not the case with Faust's instant kill, this week's climax.
Let the operation begin!
Perhaps a lifestyle.
Okay, let's take a moment to recollect what just happened. Faust just put his opponent through a facial surgery operation while using his surgery knife to conduct an orchestra. How much more ridiculous can you get? Wait, this is Faust I'm talking about. He can always get more ridiculous.
Get up to rock, get up to burn, tell me the fight on me, the ways to make her.
Ooh, I get to talk about Skullgirls again. As I've established before, I really like this game. And easily one of the biggest parts of my love for this game is the roster. There's not many characters, yes, but there's plenty of diversity present here. I mean, you've got a schoolgirl with a parasite for hair, a cat lady who's able to take off her head and use it as a weapon, and a robotic girl who's a living reference to old 30s cartoons, just to name a few. And that was in the original game. We got even more crazy characters in the game's first re-release, Skullgirls Encore, one of which being the musically enhanced cyborg Big Band, whom is the owner of my number 5 candidate, Satchmo Deathblow. Being one of the only level 5 blockbuster attacks present in the game, it's got a lot going for itself. When you first activate the attack, time freezes and you're given until your meter drops to 0 to play whatever tune your heart desires, and that is no exaggeration. When the meter reaches 0, time restores and no damage is done. However, should you do a certain button input during this frozen time state, well... you get that. Ain't it awesome?
Get up to rock, get up to burn, tell me the fight on me, the ways to make her.
If I were to describe the finishers in Injustice God Among Us in a single word, that word would be insane. Seriously, this game takes the powers that the characters of the DC Universe have and just go all out with them, and my goodness, it's amazing. There are honestly so many super moves in this game that could have made the cut. But in the end, I decided to go with probably the most ridiculous of them all, but what I consider to be the most awesome of them all, Mass Destruction. There's honestly not much to this super move, but even then, there doesn't need to be when you find out what happens in this. To put it quite simply, Doomsday punches you into the ground and continues to do so until you've gone through the planet's core and come out of the other side of the Earth. Well, that was cool and all, but not enough for you? Well, how about we have Doomsday repeat the process of punching you through the Earth's core and bring you back to the arena you were fighting in? Quick reminder, pretty much all the finishers in Injustice are this crazy. But in my opinion, Mass Destruction takes the cake by far. Good work, Doomsday. Hey, I managed to make it through this entire segment without making a single Persona 3 joke. Had to open my mouth, didn't I?
Get up to rock, get up to burn, tell me the fight on me, the ways to make her.
Well, big surprise here, a fighting game list. I'm talking about Dissidia Duodessa. How much more predictable can I get? Believe it or not, my love for this game isn't nearly as strong as it used to be, but regardless of this fact, this is still easily my favorite fighting game and one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. And one major element behind that is the EX bursts. Not only are they examples of how to make good QuickTime events, but a lot of these EX bursts actually play homage to attacks in the main series Final Fantasy games, especially the series' various limit breaks. Choosing which EX burst to go with may actually have been the most difficult choice of this list, as my favorite shuffles around pretty much every week or so. But as of now, my favorite would be none other than Tifa Lockhart's EX burst, Final Heaven.
Breaking my limit! Feels like you're flying.
Honestly, where do you go wrong with this attack? Not only does this EX burst pay a large homage to Tifa's final limit break in Final Fantasy VII, slot machine and all, but also just looks really cool. Where do you go wrong with an epic beatdown on the opponent, followed by a charged up punch that creates a volcanic explosion? And before any of you ask, no, this is not my favorite EX burst because it belongs to Tifa. That's just a coincidence. No, seriously, totally a coincidence. Nothing but a coincidence. I assure you, it's absolutely nothing other than a coincidence. None of you believe me, do you?
Get up to rock, get up to burst, tell me to fight on me, the ways to make her.
Ah, yes, Street Fighter. That series of fighting games that I used to hate with a burning passion, but now I love quite a lot. Seriously, these are some of the best 2D fighters you're gonna get out there, and hopefully Street Fighter V continues that trend. But we're here to talk about fighting game finishers, so let's talk about them. Specifically, one of the Ultra Combos from Street Fighter IV. Since the game has a 2.5D build, there was a lot more room to make the game's Ultra Combos more cinematic than ever. And for me, this is no more apparent than with Oni's second Ultra Combo, Tenchi Sokaigen. Holy crap! Seriously, this attack is just straight up ferocious. I mean, in regards to what happens in the actual attacking, there's not much to it. It's just Oni knocking the opponent into the air and then hitting him in midair. But my goodness, look at this! This is something I love about Street Fighter. It could take something as simple as hitting a guy while he's in the air and making it freaking intense. The visuals, the game and the music stopping if this KOs the opponent, the fact that the classic KO doesn't even appear on screen. There's so much to love about this attack. I guess this is why you shouldn't mess with someone like Oni. Ever.
Get up to rock, get up to burst, tell me to fight on me, the ways to make her.
Out of all the mistakes I made on my original fighting game finishers list, one of the biggest in my eyes, aside from the numerous times I ripped off Josh Scorcher, would be not including any finisher from the BlazBlue series. Seriously, how did I make that mistake? A majority of the Astral Heats are fantastic. Some of the best finishers I've ever seen in a fighting game. So yeah, as you can guess, picking my favorite Astral Heat was no easy task. There's just way too many good ones. But alas, I have to actually choose one. So I decided to go with the one I've loved from the instant I saw it, Valkenhayn's Blute Voltmund. Wow. Where do I begin? Well, let's go ahead and go over what we just witnessed. Valkenhayn starts by doing a backflip, kicking the opponent to the air in epic slow-mo. And it's then that Valkenhayn takes this opportunity to unleash the beast and transform into his full form before jumping up into the air after the opponent. Silhouetted by the full moon, Valkenhayn makes it to the opponent and proceeds to slash at them multiple times, and when the screen goes red, he slashes at the opponent one last time, shrouding the opponent in darkness as the attack comes to an end. As you can tell, there's a lot to love about this attack. The attack is flashy, the visuals are great, it's just got a lot that I love in a fighting game finisher, making it the perfect choice for my number one. I'm the One-Winged Angel, and further proof that Blute Voltmund is so great, Greninja took a page out of Valkenhayn's book for his final smash in Smash 4. Well, that and Strider's Ragnarok, but that's beside the point. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this countdown. This one was a bit shorter and overall simpler than my more recent countdowns, but hey, with a topic like this, that's to be expected. As for the remainder of the year, I currently have one more countdown planned for 2015. Possibly two, but we'll see. Anyways, if you enjoyed what you saw, feel free to click on those like and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to watch my other countdowns, just click on the annotation on screen. It'll take you to a playlist of my other worthwhile countdowns. And if you want to see what crazy antics I'm up to and occasionally an update on my work, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I'm the One-Winged Angel, and thank you for watching. Yeah, a lot of the classic Castlevania characters were given very anime-esque redesigns, and many of their personalities were rewritten, some for the worse, but some for the worse.